Well, this month marks World Autism Awareness Month, and various NGOs and other institutions dedicate this month to raise greater awareness about autism spectrum disorder. This, of course, to promote understanding as well as acceptance and celebrating the unique strength as well as abilities of children on the spectrum. Africa TICON has partnered with the inaugural Autism in Africa Summit to address the challenges that are faced by neurodivergent youth in under-resourced communities. And in this discussion, we are looking at barriers to diagnosis as well as support and the importance of culturally relevant interventions and effective ways to reshape the autism narrative here in Africa. Disability Inclusion Lead at Africa TICON, Lana Roy, joins us now for more on this discussion. Lana, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time. So you were part of this recent inaugural Autism in Africa Summit. Briefly take us through some of the discussions that actually form part of this gathering as we also intensify more awareness on autism here in South Africa.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you for having me. Wow. It's actually been not just the Autism Conference, but this is Autism Month. And we celebrated Autism Day nearly 2 weeks ago. So it's just bringing to light the need to speak more about these. And it's not just autism, it forms part of neurodiversity. And within there are there's a number of different disorders, from ADD to ADHD to autism, that we need to be speaking about. And I think one of the key things in the conference was two things: to make sure that we are making the public, or just making people, more aware of such individuals. And number two, that definitely from my perspective, we are speaking about how to include them, A, in our schooling system, and B, in the workplace. And that has always been my concern, or rather that's what keeps me up at night, is, we have these wonderful special schools, and then where do these young people go? How do they become economically empowered?
Absolutely, Lana, because I'm sure you heard in the insert there preceding our interview, of course, some of the parents, they were very concerned about the actual future and sustainability of their autistic children. So when you speak, or we speak about the autism spectrum disorder, what exactly are we referring to? And do symptoms typically present themselves in the exact same way between the different autistic individuals? How do we even differentiate this, Lana, as parents, as caregivers, as well as peers?
So firstly, there's a multitude of different symptoms or different ways that it presents itself. We have verbal children who can communicate, and then we have non-verbal. We have children who act very, I want to use the word, they act out and they become quite destructive. And then we have children who are take things very internally, and they don't speak and they don't engage. So there is such a wide spectrum of different symptoms that you can notice. But within our context of South Africa, it's very interesting that at least 60 to 70 of young people go undiagnosed and only seems to be diagnosed later on in life. And that is one of the key areas that we are also looking at, is how do we diagnose these young people sooner than later? So to rather give them and get them into therapy or get them into these special schools. And there's also one thing about rural versus urban. So we have that issue where we have at least 80% of young people in the urban areas who have access to a school, a special school, or schools that mainstream these young people. But in the rural areas, we've got at least 70 to 80% of these young people actually not even accessing school environments.
You're absolutely right, Lana, because I was actually going to ask, I mean, in the African context, because as you rightfully put it out there, it's either misdiagnosed or even undiagnosed, leading to the individual largely being secluded because parents would not know how to assist their children, adding also to the ongoing stigma based purely on misunderstanding. Now, the question is very important, Lana, so is to also assist would-be parent. Which parent would likely carry the autism gene? Because the common assumption, even if you go and Google, is that the older fathers tend to have a higher chance of sperm with genetic mutations. But of course, this is not the only explanation, right?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a medical professional. I'm more a community-based specialist in this area. I think we would have to bring in someone who, though I've certainly studied genetics and epigenetics, which, it speaks about what genes and which chromosomes actually carry this. But I'm going to, if you don't mind, refrain from speaking on that without a medical professional behind me. At being more of a community expert, it's something that I see more in a community based than actually on a medical terms.
No problem at all, Lana. I mean, do you think then there's a specific age that autism will actually start showing symptoms on children? And at this point, what should a parent or caregiver do?
So I think it presents itself earlier than later. And if a parent or a caregiver notices these, the first thing is to go to your local clinic or go to your local mental health community, maybe social worker, and to try and see, and the word here is trying, because we know it's not as easy and as accessible to get a full diagnosis. So you would be required then to probably go to one of the hospitals where you would see probably a neurologist of sorts or an occupational therapist. Those would probably be your two key people who would be able to have or be able to give you a diagnosis. But it does present itself earlier. It's not something that generally develops later on in life. It's something that presents itself within the first year to 2 years when you start seeing developmental delays in your child or strange behavior. But I guess if you're a first-time parent and these are things that you're not aware of, I think this is where the delays come in as a first-time parent, where you're not you're not comparing to another child of yours who has already had some form, it's gone through it. And then you start to see, oh, my child, this is not following the same instructions, is not walking, is not communicating as my other child. But I think first-time parents take a bit longer to get to a professional, a medical professional, because of not being able to understand the milestones clearly.
Thank you so much, Lana, for that input. And we understand access to services, support and interventions in the country are currently being ramped up just to bring about extra awareness for those parents or those that might be exposed to those people that are autistic.